I want to go over the setup that I have been running in USPSA. I have been running this exact belt configurator, how you see it, for the past year now. I recently switched over to Glock. As a lot of people know, I used to compete with a CZ Shadow 2, but I kind of feel like the Glock gives me more input into it, and so I can kind of get feedback during stages. The Glock, however, like as soon as you shoot one bad shot, your recon was not there, like it immediately tells you like instantly. So that's why I chose the Glock. So to go over this setup particularly, we'll talk about the Glock first off. This is a Gen 5 17. MOS cut from the factory. I like the Gen 5 because it has the kind of flared mag weld a little bit, smooth grip, as well as front forward serrations. None of those are needed, but they are nice things to have. So the 17 MOS Gen 5 is actually very, very hard to come by nowadays because they have stopped making it. They have in turn started making the Glock 47, which is shorter of a frame on it. You can still get full lights on it, but the recoil lug and recoil spring is a little bit shorter. I haven't had a lot of experience on the 47, but I do notice a little bit that it's punchier. It's not snappier like the 45, but it's just punchier, kind of hits a little bit harder on the return, whereas I think a 17 is just very, very smooth and subtle, as well as I can compete in USPSA's parent organization, IPSC. They have a barrel length restriction on that, so a 34 is out of the question, and I can carry this gun. So I have two of these identical setups, Thing 1 and Thing 2, and I switch between competition carry and EDC and practicing with both of those guns. So like this is the gun that I actually carry day in and day out. Is it big? Sometimes yes, but also like if you have the right equipment, like a good holster, then it's pretty easy to do. So that is the gun itself. I have a forward controls optic plate on here because it's MOS cut. Then I have the Trijicon SRO. I've been running SROs for close to like 3 or 4 years now, almost as soon as I got into competition. My first dot was a RMR, then I went to a SRO, and I've been loving them ever since. This is the 2.5 MOA version. There's just something nice about having a circle glass and then a dot in the center of it. It just gives you the warm and fuzzies instead of like a big box or like a square or a rectangle. That's totally a preference thing, but I do like the circle. And then I also have a tactical trigger in here. This is a fully drop-in kit from a guy. He uses OEM parts that he polishes, and then a grail pin, or I think he's now changed it to a connector that artificially holds the trigger bar low so you can get a smoother trigger pull. This is his metal flat index trigger shoe, I believe, but this gives you a very, very nice crisp wall, which is one of the things I love about a trigger, is the crispness to the wall. It lightens it up a little bit, as well as it gives you a very, very short reset. So you can really, really run this trigger, and I've gotten 13s, 14s, and 15s pretty consistently with this trigger, and that's split times. So that is the gun. The mags that I've been using are Glock OEM tubes. There's nothing wrong with those. You can get the metal ones, but I like the plastic ones. And this is the Henning Group aluminum base pads. This gets me up to, I think, 22 or 23 rounds in this mag. If you change out to a 3D printed by MBX follower, you can actually get 24 rounds in this mag. Now with that, I've had trouble with my Glock of running this 24+1. The pressure on the underside of the slide just causes a malfunction. So what I do is I run it 23+1. There's very few times in competition where I need 24 or 25 rounds out of the gun from the start before I have to reload. And then for practice, I run Arredondos, which gives me 22 rounds in this mag flawlessly with the OEM tubes or OEM followers, so you can get lockback. So those were very, very good. Then the belt itself is our speed belt. This has just the outer belt. The inner belt is actually the Blue Alpha, I think it's their Low Pro Velcro EDC belt. It's made with a little bit tubular nylon with Velcro sewn on the outside. It's a little bit stiffer, and I kind of prefer that when it comes to a inside belt to attach my competition belt to. So to mount the holster, I have a True North Concepts modular holster adapter. This is literally just a block of aluminum. Now why I chose this one instead of other ones is that previously in USPSA you could not have a thigh strap. So that means you have to have a rigid hanger because you had to loosen up your holster. If you had a super, super tight retention holster and you had a floppy hanger, your gun was just gonna catch up on the holster and it wasn't gonna be good because you couldn't have a thigh strap to hold it down. So to get around that, you would loosen up your holster a little bit and you run a stiffer mount system. So I've been running those, have great success with those. And then I run the Safariland QLS system for that, for the receiver and fork. This is not necessary, but it kind of is just nice to have where you have the ability to take off your holster if you need to swap it out, change things, change guns, or just walk around with your holster. And then the holster itself is a heavily modified Ragnarok holster. This is not something that we currently sell, but this is a normal Ragnarok that we mold on our own machines. But I have the ability to have a special cut path on our Haas machines to get very, very slimline to the trigger, as well as cut out a deeper recess to go to the bottom of the ejection port. Now does that, a lot of guys will say deeper cut is going to be for a faster draw. That's not necessarily the case, but it just looks more racy. When it comes to mag carriers, when I'm running these Glock tubes, because they are plastic, you kind of have to be leery of how you're running them or what carriers you're running. I'd have had a previous experience with the Double Alpha XI, I think, carriers. And I've had a lot of issues with those, of sticking to the plastic on the Glock tubes. Metal mags you can kind of do with a lot of carriers because they work well, but when it comes to these particular, the polymers just have to play well nice with others. So I use our rag carriers. A lot of guys use our old Mars carriers, which work great, but our new designed rag carriers work phenomenal with the Glock mags. I have them on tech locks, so they can kind of come on, come off really, really simply, as well as I can, like, if I'm training rifle one day, I can take off this back one, put a rifle carrier on there. I can very simply just unlock it, do the quick snaps, and I can pull them off. So they're very easy to undo, super nice, super easy, as well as when you're mounting these to your belt, you can mount them just straight vertically to your belt. However, I personally like to kind of actually artificially tilt these by different spaced washers. So as you can see, I have a thicker washer at the top, thinner washer at the bottom. So it kind of just hangs the holster out just a little bit. Easier to grab. That's totally a preference thing. You don't have to do that. A lot of things when it comes to your belt setup is once you have the consistency down, then it's kind of just a preference thing. Something just kind of nice to have, it's not necessary at all, is a magnet. For competition, you'll see a lot of guys run a magnet up in the front. So like unloaded table starts, you can real quick just throw a magnet on top of there. I personally use it for more of just a range tool. So as I'm running around, as I'm practicing, I'll have my 3 carriers and my magnet. Well, I can put 3 mags in my carriers, and I can put like 2 mags on this magnet. Just stow my back real quick so that I can go down range, shoot 6 mags, whatever I need to do, and practice really simply. As well as whenever I'm unloading, showing clear at the end of the competition, I can just stow a mag right there as well. So it's definitely not necessary, but it is a nice thing to have. So just past the magnet right here, you have all this kind of empty space on the back of your belt. Now you can leave that empty, you don't have to put something there, but because you have all this free real estate, a tourniquet carrier is just a nice little addition right there. So I have our tourniquet carrier, just dangler pouch right here on it. You can throw a Sharpie right here so you have something right on. But when it comes to this gear in general, consistency is going to be the first and foremost thing. Having something that has reliable and consistent draw from the holster, reliable and consistent magazine retention so that you can draw them consistently. That's going to be the main focuses, okay? You can have a super fancy holster that has 12 different axes of adjustment, a super fancy carrier that's all slick and wazoo, whatever it is, carriers that like put the magnet or the magazine all up in the front, have a magnet to it, whatever it is. None of that really matters if you do not possess the skill to actually use your equipment at the level that you're wanting to perform. So learn the skill with whatever gear you currently have, then get consistent stuff, then progress and get more gear if you want to in the future. But overall, skill is more important than gear.